LBR LBO Infrastructure Summit 2015, making Colombo a globally competitive city.
So that was a lot of good information about basic planning, basics, and basics are the most important, right? For making cities. A lot of people probably don't. If you're not an architect or planner, you might not understand a lot of that planner talk, and that's okay because, in fact, cities are not made by planners or even governments, right? Cities are made by entrepreneurs, and governments, for example, just set the tone. They send the long-term signals. They create the conditions for others, for the market to make the city. So the market is the one who innovates and makes cities, right? And that's becoming more and more obvious with these huge companies who are changing the face of cities. Say Uber, say Airbnb, right? Who would have thought that these digital companies would be changing the face of cities? It's not planners who did that. It's not architects who did that. It's not government officials who did that, right? Airbnb is repurposing existing space in cities and creating hundreds and hundreds of jobs and creating more density in cities, right? So what I want to talk about is agile and online cities. Right. Right now, cities. This is the best time. You're talking about Colombo, being way at the bottom. But I can tell you right now, this is 2015. Right. We're living in exponential technology times. Right. Technology before was linear, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's exponential, 1, 2, 5. By the time 10 steps, you're at a billion. Right. So we're living in times of the iPhone. Right. Just 40 years ago, this was. Took up 2 floors at Stanford University, 100 times more expensive. Only the military could have it. And now it's in my pocket, 100 times faster, cheaper, smaller, right? It's become almost like the bicycle for the brain, right? It's an extension of our biology now. And because of this, it's transforming the urban fabric and the social fabric of cities. So Colombo, I can tell you, within 5 years, it could become a role model city for many other cities. I've been to over 250 cities in the world, and this is my first time in Colombo, but I've seen many cities with similar circumstances, similar size, similar environment, similar culture traits. So here's what I'm seeing right now. So I come in the area of global engagement. How can cities become well known in the world? Because the better the reputation of a city, the more likely it is to attract talent, to attract investment, to attract students, to attract research facilities, to attract film shoots, to attract all kinds of mobile activities that have become actually increasingly mobile, economic activities that have become mobile. So so how does a person how do you compete with the cities that are in everyone's minds, the New York, the Londons, the Paris, the Hong Kong, right? Those handful of cities dominate our mental maps, right? But increasingly, there are more and more cities becoming into our mental maps, the Sao Paulos, the Beijing, the Shanghais, the Hyderabad, the Bangalores. And now these cities are coming up, mostly based on GDP and so forth, but also some cultural cities. Some smaller cities are competing with bigger cities based on their cultural assets or their geographic biodiversity assets, right? Think of the city in Bilbao, right? Curitiba in Brazil, based on its urban innovations. So how do you compete with those cities? So Colombo could compete with these cities if it really understands what Colombo has to offer to the world. What does Colombo have? What can Colombo create and export culturally, economically, that no other city can? And a lot of people will say, well, you have to do advertising, you have to do marketing. But I can tell you right now that the best advertising is not advertising. The best marketing is not marketing. The trend I'm seeing is, if you can see, what I'm seeing is that when cities engage with the world, it's very different from nations. Nations are more more ideological and high politics. But when cities engage with the rest of the world, or when I go to conferences where it's, a lot of city mayors invited, and the kind of conversations they have with each other is very practical, because cities know the needs of the citizens. They're very close to the needs. It's about how do you pick up the garbage? It's what's a better way of creating social mobility? How can we have more healthier citizens? How can we improve education? Very, very practical conversations at the city level. So what I'm seeing is that if cities want to create global influence, what they need to do is create urban innovations and then export that to the rest of the world, right? What is Colombo doing in the area of sustainable job creation? What is Colombo doing in terms of energy? What is Colombo doing in urban design or what I call civic joy or culture and community, in public health or wellness? What is Colombo doing that other cities can emulate, right? And that is city diplomacy, right? No high politics, no ideological talks, just this is what we're doing to improve our citizens' life. This is what you can also do, exchanging ideas. That is what city diplomacy is and becoming. So there's no more need for these long-shot, billion-dollar infrastructure spending. We're living in digital times, right? You can create something that took 10 years in 2 years now, thanks to the internet, thanks to transformative technologies, which is social, mobile, cloud, big data, and you can affect all levels of the city, right? I like to look at cities as the hardware, the infrastructure, the roads, the buildings, and the light infrastructure. That's a term that a lot of people don't use, the light infrastructure. We always think it's this heavy-handed bridges and, no. In the software, the programming, the parks, the culture, and what I call the orgware, which is the governance, the public services, the regulations. And I can tell you the best innovations in today's times for cities is not technology and it's regulation innovation, right? What kind of stricter policies are governments creating? What kind of tighter regulations are cities creating that other cities can emulate? That's where the innovation is actually happening. And these transformative technologies can leapfrog cities ahead of cities that spent decades building the infrastructure, right? My favorite example is rapid bus transit systems that were innovated by Curitiba, right? You don't need subways. All you need is a dedicated bus lane. You create a bus, and it's basically an overland train. It stops at a bus stop. People get off, people get on very fast, keeps going. That's what you call an agile city, right? Another way cities can innovate is by changing the way they purchase solutions, right? The way they do these procurement that usually tend to favor larger companies, the Ciscos, the Japanese infrastructure firms, and so on. No, stop buying from them, right? Look at the Silicon Valley startups. Look at the startups in Stockholm, right? These cities are releasing their data to the public. Startups are coming in, using that data, and creating all kinds of solutions that are more nimble, agile, cost-efficient, and immediately deployable. And this is a good example of this is a picture of the rapid transit system, which started in Curitiba and now has been exported to hundreds of cities around the world, right? So you don't need a subway, you just need rapid bus transit systems, right? Quick little example. So how can Colombo, I get a phone call about once a week from some governments asking, JT, we want to be the Berlin of this country. We want to be the New York of Asia, so on and so forth. I'm like, no, don't do any marketing. Improve your city sucks. Improve your city first, improve the experience, because in 2015, the cities that create experiences, platforms for interactions to happen between citizens, that create more agile innovations, create more agile social mobility, are the cities that are going to be respected, admired, and will attract young people, talented people. And really, cities are basically a collection of people, just like a company. A company is nothing but a collection of people, right? So cities are nothing but a collection of people. And if you can make interactions between these people, you have an innovative city. So once again, Agile Transport. A lot of people think that Uber is the only, the one who's transforming transportation in cities around the world. No, we have the Poo Bus, the first picture right there, which is, it runs on poop, right? In London, right? I'm pretty sure Sri Lanka has a lot of poop, right? Everyone, the whole world has plenty of poop. So a great innovation that could be adopted. Electric buses. Bridge is a bus service, private bus service, all based on data. They see where people are actually taking the buses, where they are actually going, and then customizing bus routes. Agile innovation. Chariot, also using big data to see where people actually want to go and where people actually work, and creating customized bus routes. And they use vans instead of buses, which have less regulations. They take up less space in the road, easier parking, and so forth. Amazing agile innovations. And the great part is, like I said, the worst cities in the world, if you look at them, are the overly planned cities, right? So planning is important, basic planning, but don't overplan it. Understand that a city must basically create the conditions, the long-term signals for entrepreneurs, right? The techies, the geeks, any area. And for the first time in humanity, a broader range of players are changing the face of cities, from academic institutions, startups, steady suppliers, digital communities, NGOs, multinationals, government agencies, citizen change makers, religious groups. All these are coming together now and recreating, reimagining infrastructure, right? So anyone could be a player. You don't have to understand planner talk, right? You don't have to understand, it's good to know what zoning is, it's good to know what land use is, and so on and so forth. All in all, my advice to Colombo, copy other cities. Steal ideas from Stockholm. Customize them. Cities have common problems, but the way you take a solution, you have to drastically customize it. Different cultures, different environment, every city is very unique. So you have to customize these solutions and create solutions, innovate solutions that are very unique, solve problems, and export those solutions. That's how you engage with the rest of the world and improve Colombo's reputation. Thank you.
LBR LBO Infrastructure Summit 2015, making Colombo a globally competitive city.